Good evening. Here is the news. Bad news has been outlawed. Can you imagine all the people living round the world? Ooh. Short show tonight because we're going to watch a show with Tony Robinson in it, English comedian actor. Does some great little travel shows. This one's about architecture to do with cathedrals. I know that will bore most people, but yes, it fascinates me. Small minds, you know. Have a shower first. We had a white Corella, short-billed white Corella, come sit on the fence. They used to eat the seed, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this pack of seeds just not very good brand.
It must be coming in off the desert because it's the first time I've seen one.
Yeah.
Did we get some fruit? You can freeze little bags of fruit. You can take them out when you need them.
Yeah, get a different container though. I don't want to put it in with the seeds.
Yeah.
I'm going for a wee and then I'm going to go watch my show.
In there? Okay. She's gone to watch her show. Did you take you out the back, I think, so you can have a look at something. Might be more interesting than just looking at the door. Oh, solar lights coming on. One solar light in action. It's got to be more interesting than watching a door. Oh, the other solar light just come on. At the back there, blueberries. I've not planted anything yet. Beautiful night. peaceful. Here's a feeling. Do 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 do. Magpies singing their night song. So I'll plant all those vegetable seedlings in the herb garden, which is down there. Got all different types of herbs. Grass is green. Problem with grass, it need mowing surely. The magpie's night song. Hello, Blinky. My solar lights are working now. Got some seedlings today. I actually phoned up Bunnings and said, we've been down there 2 or 3 times over the month and there's been nothing there. She said, well, you're in good luck, they're just unloading them now. So we went down and got some herbs. And, down the back there's going to be a row of blueberries and then just mixed veggies. And that's the herb garden. Nothing's planted, I've just plonked them down in the beds at the moment. I'll do that tomorrow. Fresh veg, not a big garden, but it'll produce. Peaceful night, very quiet. No aircraft, no one driving around. It's good. Gets dark quick now. Yeah, I mean, it's good in one way. Of course, it makes people very anxious because everything's so different. But I don't think it'll go back to normal. I think you'll see all the dots on the floors and shops and social distancing definitely being the norm. I wonder what they're going to do in restaurants. Remove half the tables? Maybe. But we can't go back too early. That's going to be a big mistake. Yeah, I think we're going to see definitely. Our country, we're very lucky, Blinky. We produce an enormous amount of food, and the food is still being produced. But in some other countries, it's not going to be good. Yeah, there's always been a world order. Just people like to use the word new. I don't know why. There's nothing new about it. Big bonus though, like I say, I just couldn't even get seeds. Here I am, my seed company. My suppliers can't get their crops in. So they use a lot of itinerant backpackers and whatnot. And two have emailed me saying it's not going to happen this year. So it's very hard for us to kick back our business in. But it'll happen, but in time. Above everything else, and I've studied for a very long time too, and I can name all the greedy bastard families for you, but you'd know them. The truth is that we're just kept in our place. Our place is not to rise above just getting by. That's what it's all about. And to determine how they do that, every decade or so they take our money. Our retirement funds get halved. New laws are imposed to suit the rich people. So it's not as if it's new. It's a continuous cycle of rich stay very rich, and we are told to keep in our place. That's how the world order works. Yeah, I don't know what world you're from, but the world of believing what you're told is probably not what it is. Genesis, okay? You know my beliefs. I believe that we're all part of something. I think it's wonderful. It's not that good here. But I think overall we're part of something that's good. I think some of the buffheads get left out. I think that's part of the plan. Shake out the genetic failures. Those who don't want to be kind or caring and just want to think of themselves only. Lots of people like that. So the script for keeping people poor gets rewritten every now and then, but the end goal is the same. You're not to rise above a certain level. That's how it is. I had a few slip through, but yeah, you can call it a cull if you like, but this is targeting mainly old people. Not just old people, but mainly. This is just a virus. You know, if you and I were 1,000 years ago and there was a new virus, a cold or a flu, you'd probably take out half the village because you have no immunity to it. And there's certainly no incubators or ventilating machines. There's none of them around 1,000 years ago. And it usually boiled down to herd immunity in the end. In other words, the fittest survived. That's how it was. People forget, you know, in I think it was 1948 and 1964, both Asian viruses, they wiped out, I think first one was a couple of million, and then 68 I think it was 4 million. Well, yeah, bioweapons in their entity are the simplistic way of removing a lot of people. And we know they have them, but each virus that's introduced generally, see, a virus, even though not a living organism as such, just made up of tissue, you know, the mechanics of genomes, it's not living, but it actually develops to survive. So what's happening right now is that the virus is killing people. Now, that means the virus dies as well. And the virus doesn't want that. Most viruses will mutate to coexist with their host in the end. Most viruses mutate weaker. So the virus can survive. That's how it works. And Australia's done a great job. People of Australia, mainly, some bullheads though, but mainly are doing the right thing. Italy took it far too casual. I remember listening to a report early January from Italy saying it's not much, they referenced Trump saying, he says it's not that much a big deal, it's just a flu, don't worry about it. And of course, the Italians always hug and kiss. It didn't turn out too well for them. The UK is not going well either at the moment. The US is horrendous. I keep hearing reports that the US is going to get everyone back to work shortly, before the end of the month. Really? I'm Box Hill. Yeah, I know Box Hill real well. I've got a daughter who works frontline. I've got a son-in-law who's an ambulance driver. We've all got someone involved in this. It will pass. It will be painful. And the way we live will change. Because the last thing we want is a second wave of the same ferocity. Second wave of it being not too bad, that's okay. But a second wave of the same is not good. I do know, Blinky, that the retribution from the rest of the world against China will be massive. It's going to be something in awe to watch how people distance themselves with dealing. I think our country will prohibit Chinese investment. I think that's one of the punishments coming from Australia. A lot of people say, no, that's not going to happen, but it will. When something like this happens on this scale, the finger pointing and a day of reckoning will want to be had. Not by me, but that's how the world works. Yeah, war is not really an issue, I don't see at the moment. I don't see that, I mean, we are at war, if you think about it. But China, even though it will point, and we've already heard saying the Chinese say, oh, it's an American virus, blah, 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 doesn't matter. The perception of the world is that it came from China. So the world will punish China. People say, oh no, but they do all the manufacturing. Yep, that's what's going to happen. You'll have manufacturing companies start in our country that have never been here before. You'll have manufacturing in the UK go full gang bust. Same in the US. I believe Apple will leave China as an initial punishment. And that's a big deal. Do you pay more for your apple? Yeah, you will. Will you pay more for manufactured goods in Australia? Yep, you will. But it's a punishment. Like I say, the rest of the world is about to deal China. And do I blame the Chinese people? Not at all. They're just like us. I read a report in the late 90s, Blinky, that around the world in labs, covert, there are around 3,000 different biochemical weapons. Most of them are viruses. And attaching different proteins to them means it could single out a certain race of people. So this has been going on for a very long time. It's the new Cold War. But there are no winners in this one. Let's say for one moment this is man-made and deliberately done. What have they won? I don't see anyone sticking their hand up saying, we won. Our planet is so small now, within 24 hours we can be on one side to the other and back. We can spread whatever is going quickly, and that's what happened. But we're getting away with it lightly, and it's because most people in Australia do take it seriously. It's like even if I was near you now, I wouldn't come visit you. You're susceptible. And I am too, in a way. I'm over 60, so it's not as if we would both go unscathed with this. But I wouldn't visit you for the simple reason that I wouldn't want a chance to pass it on to you. 1.5 million, that's nothing. That's pennies. That's what my son and daughter have opted out of going on the work thing from the government, work keeper. And they've actually gone down to Centrelink, and they are now on unemployment or Newstart or whatever it's called. I said I would ask you a question. With the healthcare card that they will get, does it take the full meter reading off your electricity bill? That was my daughter asked that. And I said, I don't know. But I said, if I catch up with Blinky, I'll ask you, because you may know. I think it's something like $60 here or something every time they read your bloody meter. I told them I think they get concession for public transport with the healthcare card. That bit I did find out, but I didn't find out whether the electricity companies don't charge for reading your meter. Like I say, it's about $60. And I thought you might know. You don't know. Well, the way I imagine it would be on your, because I get a paper bill, and mine says something like $58 reading or whatever it is every 2 months. That's the main part of my bill, actually, just them reading the bloody thing. And I imagine if you get a concession, you either get a percentage off or you get the whole reading off. I don't know. I'll try and do some research for her tonight because she's sort of panicking. You know what her electricity bill was? That's why she asked me. For 2 months. My electricity bill before the solar was, and all the work that was going on here with machines going all day and night, was $250, and that was our biggest ever bill. Normally it's about $150. Her electricity bill for 2 months was $900. Concession plus a quarterly chunk. So you get paid for electricity rebate or something? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, so $900. I said, that is ridiculous. Now we got solar, I expect it to go down quite a lot. And when my state government says, oh, we're going to give you a rebate for a battery, I'll get one. So I won't have any electricity bill, except the reading. That pisses me off. I said to the lady once, can't I just read it to you? She said, no, we don't do that. I said, I can read. I'll call out the numbers for you. No, we don't do that. If you call me, I can say more. Okay, I'll give you a quick call. I'll end this shortly. Like I said to her, I said, don't worry about the reading. If your bill's bloody 900, the reading charge is not your problem. She said, oh, yeah, I know. They got that, and we didn't do it here. Every room in our house has a separate split system. So if we're in the bedroom, the only thing going is our bedroom. Or if we're in the lounge, the only thing going is the lounge. And I worked it out a long time ago. Having a really big ducted air conditioning system is stupid. Because even though you might not have the vents on in each room, it's going to each room vent. So the motor is working flat out. And she said, oh, could be. They have the air conditioner going 24/7. I said, that's what you're paying for. So even in the middle of summer, we've got the old part of the house at the front, as you know. That's a small lounge. So in the middle of summer next year, even though we've got a nice big area out here and it's good, we'll be in the front lounge. Just sitting out there, you know, the 42-degree heat, the little air conditioner ticking away, does the job. We finally get these 4 extra air conditioner systems fitted next Tuesday. The guy that originally did our first lot was going to do this, but his off-sider came down with the virus. You got to have a split system. I mean, your body is the only thing you need to keep cool. And a mate of mine was saying, no, you definitely got to go ducted. I said, what's your electricity bill every 2 months? He said, oh, about 500. I said, ours is about 150. Oh, maybe I'll look into it, he said. I said, maybe. Ducted systems, very expensive because you've got a really big motor pumping away, whether you're using one room or the whole house. Got a Centrelink loan, 6 months to pay back. Is that a new thing they've just introduced? I mean, what we've got to do, in literal sense, is just to get by without, you know, struggling and worrying and being anxious about every bloody bill that comes through the door. And electricity is ridiculous. The kids don't need a loan, don't get me wrong. They had good jobs. But I think now she was telling me that the reason why they decided to go Centrelink, disability, that's good. Get your back covered that way. The reason why they went Centrelink instead of this other one is that they get the concession card, they then get part, because they've got one child now and one on the way, they get part A and B, so there's apparently works out you get more with a small family not working and getting Centrelink than you would do if you got this work keeper thing. So that's why they opted for it. And I said, what have they asked you to do in regards to work? And they said, there isn't anything to look for. Centrelink at the moment, you don't apparently have to look for work because no one's hiring. But that will change, of course. But we will gradually go back to work. There'll be like factories that used to have 100 people work there. They'll only take 20 back. They'll space them appropriately. A, because that's the right thing to do. And B, there's not going to be a great demand for goods initially. No one's going to start spending a lot of money now, just in case things flare up again. There's one thing that I'm not taking you on in the next couple of years, Blinky. It's not happening. We ain't going on any boat cruise. That's not happening at all. I don't know who the hell would go on a boat cruise at the moment when this clears up. Apparently no one can get their power cut off. This is in my state. No one can be evicted from their rental. Mortgage payments can be frozen. Personal loans can be frozen. There's a concession for landlords where, you know, everyone that owns property's got to pay land rates and taxes. Well, apparently they'll be waived. So they're telling landlords, look, you're saving $4 or $5 grand a year. You know, work that out with your tenants and reduce the rent appropriately. Of course, will they all pass it on? Probably not. But people are getting enough money to get by, which is very important. Even though they might not get by well, they get by. We went on a short 4-day cruise off here a few years ago. That was good. But I don't think I'd want to do 2 weeks or 4 weeks, anything like that. I think out of the 4 days, we ate a couple of times in the open areas, like, you know, go wherever you like. But most of the time we just booked a restaurant and it didn't cost you any more. It was probably the same food, but at least it was delivered to you on a nice table with silver shiny knives and forks. So that didn't cost any more. There are a few restaurants on board ships you do have to pay because they're a la carte, super dupers. The entertainment was good, funny, comedians, they were really funny. But I wouldn't, like I say, this has sort of turned me off doing any more cruise ships. It's like, even in the best of times, gastro. How many times do we hear about gastro on board cruise ships? Yeah, some are really big. The one we went on wasn't super big. Big enough. But like I say, geez, I think that industry's just about knackered in Australia for the next 5 years, you'd think. Imagine a radio station saying, hello, Blinky, yes, that's the correct answer. You won 7 nights cruising on the Ruby Princess. And all they'd hear you is click, boo. Oh, I guess Blinky doesn't want to go on the Ruby Princess. No. It'll be the least booked holiday in Australia for 5 years. Mark my words. Now look, even when things get back to semi-normal, Blinky, who's going to travel overseas? We know what it's like in our country and we're getting by and doing the right thing, but don't you like going for a trip to China or the USA? We were about to book about 3 months ago and we both decided that's the very first time it was released, the news from China about this virus. We said, no, this is going to go everywhere. I think what's going to happen is that we may own an airline shortly, Blinky. I don't think the government's got much option to keep the second airline alive for competition than buying into it. Might be a good time to buy shares in Virgin. Might be called a different airlines. Blinky Airways. Yeah, that could be the go. Blinky Bill on the back tail. Don't get much more Aussie than that. But I've noticed, we went to Bunnings this afternoon and just to the garden department, so it was quiet, which was good. It was only, we went because I phoned up and said to the lady, look, third day in a row calling, have you got any seedlings? And she said, they've all just arrived. Get your ass down here now. So we did. But we had to walk through the main shop to get to the garden centre, but then we can come out of the garden centre. But the look on people's faces and just being anxious and all the new rules and dots on the floor, and you could see people were, I don't know if it's anxious or just pissed off in general. Like, none of us want this to happen, but it's happening. So there's probably a lot of anger out there. And for different reasons, people may be getting through it. But I imagine domestic violence could be an issue in a few more weeks if this keeps going. Yeah, you see it on, you can just feel it, the vibe, you know what I mean, Blinky? You walk around and think, yeah. We can go to a supermarket that's 24/7 called Spudshed in Australia, and you can go 3 or 4 in the morning if you like, there's no one there. But here, in the main supermarkets, Coles and Woolies, you've got to wait in a line, and when 3 or 4 people come out of a supermarket, 3 or 4 people can go in. When you get in the supermarket, there's hardly anyone in there, so they're only letting about 50 people in, even in the big supermarket, which I suppose is smart. Hello, Sugar. I just hope after all of this, because there's a lot of good stuff happening too, Blinky, there's people chipping in, helping buy groceries for old folk, dropping food off to them, all sorts of stuff. And I just hope after all this starts to wane, that people don't forget that we can be caring and kind. We don't have to wait for a pandemic to do it, is what I'm saying. I always think of these old people at home that may have gone down the shop once a week, that aren't going down, and they're scared shitless, and no one's talking to them. Yep, I hope that's one residue from this, is that people are kinder to each other and not live in a world of people thinking me, 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 me. But I don't know. I just hope that people realise this is not going to be over quickly. Just abhorrent listening, and this is not a political statement, but listening to Trump threaten governors in different states, saying, you will open when I tell you, I'm king. I don't think that's going to go down well. I listened to him talk this morning, I think, you are a total dick. Nothing to do with your politics, you're just a dick. Americans have a constitution, and on number 10, the states have authority. They shan't be dictated by a so-called king, the 10th Amendment. Be interesting how that plays out. It's not political, what I'm saying, Sugar, it's just that he's a dick. When I think of what he says, I don't think he thinks before he says it. I was reading a couple of days ago, he wants to sack his leading health advisor now because he's not agreeing with me. You're not agreeing with me? You have to go. Fuck me. But he did say something today that worried me. I make the decisions. They will follow my rule. It ain't going to happen, guys. These governors will stand up together and say, fuck you. But then there'll be the threat of withdrawing federal services to different states. You watch, it'll be a cat and mouse game. Geez, that's a big sentence. Fauci, Bill Gates, dwarf, Lackey, Bumboy. Wow, I think he's been saying a few things. I don't know about Mr. Hitler, I think about Mr. Stupid though. This is the same president who could have acted a lot earlier, who said stupid things like, Easter Sunday, we'll be holding hands. Hallelujah. So we'll get back to work. Well, we're not perfect in Australia, but I wish they'd have followed what we'd done. I think a sad loss of 63 or 64 people is our total. And most of them came off cruise ships. We've just been talking about that, man, Blinky. It's probably the most unlikely holiday I'll be taking for a while. Look, I don't think, again, not political, but the way Trump has been talking, it's like he's on a campaign trail saying, how good have I done? Look at me, I'm brilliant, everything's beautiful. And it's like, this is not the time to campaign. This is the time to save people in your nation. It just sickens me, the inaction and the indecision. If you're a federal government, you need to act federally, nationwide. Do the same shit. Not saying, oh, we're going to open up this and close that and open this up. And it's just ridiculous. But he's running a campaign for political re-election based on, just listen to me and I'll tell you how good I am. We have a saying in Australia for that, don't we, Blinky? It's called fig jam. That's right, fig jam, which means, an acronym, comes out like this. Fuck, I'm good, just ask me. So I think that Trump should be labelled fig jam. Hello, Shamo. In my little video tonight, for 5 seconds, I show a window just for you. We don't do that shit in Australia. You'll get some people that say, yeah, I always vote Labor, or I always vote Liberal, whatever, or Country Party. But if we don't like our Prime Minister, even if we might have voted him in, we give him shit. I've told one of our Prime Ministers to his face that he's a total dickhead and he had no right to send my fellow young men to Iraq. And 2 bodyguards were with him. One of them winked at me and smiled, the other just kept a straight face. And the other Prime Minister I sat down and had a beer with. His name was Bob Hawke. So we tell our politicians, I've never got arrested. Right in his face, said, you're a total dickhead, mate. You have no right to send kids to Iraq based on fucking supporting another country. How about you ask us first? And we would have said no. Yeah, good bloke, Bob. He was just a bloke. He's smart. But yeah, actually, I sat down with him, had a beer, and I said, when are you going to get rid of this Buffhead, who was our opposition leader at the time? What was his name? He was a total drongo. He said, shortly. He said, shortly, don't worry about it. Mark Latham, that's who I'm thinking of. I said, when are you going to get rid of that Buffhead, Mark Latham? He said, shortly, don't worry. I said, wheels of emotion. Yeah, no worries. between Bob Hawke and Gough Whitlam, the reforms that those two did, along with, I reluctantly say, Paul Keating, gave us superannuation, gave us a lot of things to help Indigenous people. Yeah, just a wanker, Mark Latham. But those eras, even Malcolm Fraser said, yep, you know, I have to admit the reforms that Whitlam and Bob Hawke have done great for the country. I mean, without Hawke and Keating, we wouldn't have had a superannuation. We didn't have one. There was just a pension. Of course, we had to sacrifice any pay increase for a number of years. The dismissal. Yes, God save the Queen, because nothing will save the Governor-General. Of course, in that speech, I always remember, and you remember too, Blinky, just off camera, but he had it filmed, was Norman Gunston. When Gough gave that speech, on his right-hand side was Norman Gunston, which I thought was quite funny. Of course, Aussies recently, of course, we had terrible fires everywhere in our country. And that bullhead Scott Morrison went to the bush and wanted to shake people's hands. He actually forced a lady to put a hand in her hand. And everyone was saying, piss off, dickhead. That's how Aussies speak to their politicians. I'm not sure how many Americans would go up to Trump and say, mate, you're a total wanker, you're a dickhead, now fuck off. Wonder how that would go down, Blinky. But we can do it here. I'll give you the irony. I was in Canberra at the time. And on a Monday, the Chinese Premier was in Australia. There were no security guards. He walked the streets of Canberra, went to a few places and talked to people, Chinese Australian, and then went to Parliament House. 4 days later, George W. Bush came to Australia in Canberra. The Chinese Premier was still there. And George W. Bush, if you ever know Canberra, it's like a spider's web. It's like a big circle with roads going off in all different directions. Every road, for every 100 metres, had security staff, special forces. He's the only leader who's ever visited Australia. Do you know how they got him into Parliament House, Blinky? They backed him up over the grass in a back entrance. And I couldn't even get round Canberra. They just blocked everything. And I remember talking to a couple of policemen on the fringe saying, what's this all about? They said, oh, there's fucking decks here and we've got to close everything down. And that's how police talk here, by the way. And I said, it's unbelievable. Chinese Premier's still wandering the streets of Canberra. And they said, yeah, no one's worried about him. But George W. Bush snuck into Parliament, backed up on the grass onto a veranda. Never been done before and has never been done since. Why? Well, most of the people in Australia would go up to George Bush and say, you're a total knob. Aussies tend to say what's in their mind. When I watch those press conferences that Trump has with a few of his aides and the press gallery, they're too frightened to ask the hard questions. Sulphur smelt Australia wide, you better believe it. But they don't ask hard questions. And I remember one journalist last week said something about a decision he made. And he said, you're fake news. You're a disgrace. So his idea of conversation is, it's all good and well, as long as you agree with me. As many of the staff that he has fired have found out. Anyway, I don't care who runs America. I just wish they'd run it better. Their health system is, I'm not even going to go down that track. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm going to go and watch Tony Robinson He's going to show cathedrals. I like Tony Robinson shows. It's always good and interesting. Might be on a bit later. Mrs. is watching a different show where I'm going to toodle off to watch Tony. Good chatting with you, Blinky. I'll give you a call in the next couple of days. See what you're up to. Yeah, that's true. Most billionaires didn't get there by being nice. And for the rest of you, if you're sitting there watching, I don't know why, piss off, go on, get out of here. Catch you later. Bye-bye.